And it just wasn't, I think, cool at the time, especially as a girl, to be involved in math and anything related to that. When I went to college, I was very fortunate. I had an advisor who heard about my background and suggested that I might be interested in this new field of engineering called systems engineering. At the University of Virginia, where I was studying, this involved math, but also computer programming and operations research. So I took a look at that, and it sounded actually pretty interesting. I decided to join that engineering program against the will of my parents. My father was an attorney, and he was pretty disappointed that I didn't join him in going that route as a career. But it worked out well for me in engineering. I could do my studies. I could still do my theater and choirs and singing on the side. And so I graduated pretty happily into a role as a telecommunications engineer. I spent 3 years in telecom, working on things like fiber optic networking in early days, and also working with Sprint in setting up international phone service. And in those days, I was definitely always the only woman engineer in the team, often large teams. Like once I was in Hong Kong with 100 men and me. Every morning, I remember they would say, "Good morning, lady and gentlemen," and then they'd all laugh. So, definitely I got used to just being the woman on the team. Well, after 3 years in engineering, I decided to go back to graduate school for a business degree at Stanford. And then when I graduated with an MBA at Apple Computer, these middle pictures here show me at Apple. I had a lot of fun. I worked incredibly hard there, but I was responsible as a worldwide product manager for a launch of a number of Macintosh computers. And the worldwide product manager role was a great one for someone with a technical background like myself, also combining business skills, thinking about the market and the customer and how to make some product commercially successful. I really enjoyed that. And I had the opportunity to have a big launch of this Macintosh in an auditorium, I remember, with thousands and thousands of people. It was a bit scary. But one nice thing is I had a great partner in the launch. And that partner is sitting in the golf cart. I don't know if you can tell from that blurry image who it is. But for those of you who are computer history buffs, that's Steve Wozniak. He was the co-founder of Apple Computer along with Steve Jobs. So that was definitely a highlight at Apple. So then how did I go from Apple Computer to working at Stanford, which is me in that final picture with some of the students in ICME? Well, definitely it was a long and windy road. It was a non-linear career path, that's for sure. Before I came to Stanford to work, I lived and worked in a number of places overseas. And that was great fun. I had the opportunity to work for Apple Computer in places like Tokyo. Apple Computer is what we called it there. And also in Australia and elsewhere. Initially just with my husband, who's in the picture there with our 3 cats. And then as we started having children, we brought them along on these overseas adventures. That's a picture of our 4 children, and the orange blob that you can't see very well, that's actually a giant 500-pound pumpkin that was one of our hobbies, growing these enormous pumpkins in our backyard. So it was super fun. So we would travel, and I felt like a traveling circus when we were in the airport. People stayed away from our crowd. So after all these experiences, I decided to establish more roots in the San Francisco Bay Area. And initially, I started consulting at Stanford University in the business school, working and launching new entrepreneurial programs. I thought consulting was a great way to combine work with a lot of flexibility with my time and also raise my kids. So that was a really nice way to start at Stanford. I liked what I was doing. I eventually joined as a full-time employee and had some great experiences, for instance, teaching classes like the AI for Good seminar series, which I'll tell you about in a second, and also launching new initiatives like the Women in Data Science Conference. Definitely Stanford has really given me an opportunity to have a lot of impact in areas that I feel and care about. And also I continue just to learn a lot every day on the job, which has been really a delight. So speaking about learning, I wanted to switch gears here and talk a little bit about ways that you all could be involved with our Institute ICME throughout the year, and also with opportunities in Stanford overall to learn and get engaged. I think this is the perfect time, especially now that everything is being done remote. There are a lot of different things happening online that you can join in for free. So let me quickly go through a few of those. First, this is our Institute ICME, Institute for Computational Mathematical Engineering, which is a mouthful, so we just always call it ICME. And for those of you not familiar with our institute, it's a hub at Stanford. It cuts across the entire university. Really, it's at the intersection of applied mathematics, statistics, high performance computing and programming, and then really application oriented. So the students and the faculty focus on areas like these days AI, data science, computational mathematics, scientific computing, those sorts of areas. And this just shows our faculty across Stanford, from every school at Stanford. The bubbles are the different departments. We have a lot of different areas of research, and if there's anything you're particularly interested in, want to find out more about, definitely please reach out. These are just a few examples, like with algorithms, developing new algorithms or optimizing algorithms. On social networks, that's like online marketplaces, for instance. That's a lot of research going on there. Certainly in healthcare, we are doing work around COVID-19, as well as many areas actually in the School of Medicine and other areas of healthcare. Physical sciences, for instance, in areas around energy, a lot of inverse problems, for instance, that we're working on. And then design, and a new area that I'm pretty excited about, computational policy. This is, for instance, one group working on topics like fairness and privacy and ethics in the work that we do. We have some wonderful students. They come from all around the world, a master's and PhD students. So it's a degree granting program. And then the teachers also have courses for undergrads. I think all total, we hit about 3,000 students per year. So my role is really developing this ICME ecosystem. You know, how do we bring in our faculty and students, along with alumni, industry partners like Cisco, national laboratories, NGOs, a lot of different groups together to share and to learn from each other. So we have many events, and I'll touch on a few in a second. There's also opportunities to recruit our students and work with them on capstone projects. And there's some nice things going on with professional development that you all might be interested in joining this summer. And so I lead these programs. When I started around 5 years ago in ICME, we had only two industry partners, and it's grown quite a bit since then. We have about 30 partners who work with us throughout the year, including Cisco. Actually, Cisco has been a terrific partner for many years now. And I'd like to give a shout out to Carla Lee in Cisco Research, as well as her director, Kristen Wright. That's been a wonderful group for us to work with, and kind of a focal point at Cisco. If any of you are interested in learning more, definitely reach out to them. The strategic partners you see here are organizations that really want to work with us in a deeper collaboration style around research, funding fellowships for our students, doing new curriculum development, those sorts of things. And we're always open to new ideas. So if you all are thinking about something along those lines, I'd love definitely to hear about it. So one of the main things we do is an annual research symposium. We just had that on May 28th. Some of you might have been involved, but don't worry, even if you didn't join in, everything is videotaped and it's on our YouTube channel. We had some excellent speakers. We also have online a student research guide. Since this year we couldn't do a poster session, we put a quick synopsis of what our students are doing, and that might be a way to search for different areas that you all are particularly interested in. This summer, coming up in a couple of months, we have these one-day workshops. We've held those for the last few years. This is the first time we've done it online. So I hope that that's even an easier way for everyone to join in. They're open to everyone, general public. It's just that our partners like Cisco get a 50% discount. So they're only $200 per day in workshops like data on statistics or linear numerical algebra. There's a day on R programming or Python. And then we also have one day on machine learning, one day on deep learning, natural language processing, and then we end the week with a day on data visualization. And they're really interactive. I've got great feedback from people in the past, so definitely check those out. Registration is available right now for those workshops. In the fall, we do a lot of recruiting. ICME has a little added piece that most groups can't do. We have an online resume book. And then our graduate students who do algorithms in their work have designed a matching algorithm. So we actually match what companies like Cisco are interested in and who they'd like to speak with the student preferences so that we can really tailor interview schedules for everybody. And then sprinkled throughout the year, we have these seminar classes. Some of those are small technical seminars. Some of those are broader and a little bit less technical, but you all are invited to join in those. And we also put those online afterwards in video form on our YouTube channel. Last year on the bottom here, I'm showing the AI in Real Life seminar series. We were very fortunate to have John Apostolopoulos from Cisco speak in that seminar series. He did a great talk, and you can check out that video. This year, we just finished actually a seminar series called AI for Good. I had the pleasure of leading that class, and I just wanted to share a few things about that class that I thought might be of interest to everyone listening in today. It's a rather large. We invited our industry partners along with students and faculty to join in. I think this picture was taken in January. It seems like years ago. Definitely no social distancing in the room then. So hopefully we'll get back to that someday. But we had a lot of excellent speakers and supplemental materials. And what we tried to share use cases in AI beyond the headlines. So for instance, in healthcare, Marzia Ghassemi, the professor who spoke, addressed how the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has already approved over 40 algorithms for usage. One I thought was interesting, a digital stethoscope for heart murmur detection. We also talked about human rights, how AI is actually being used for good there in identifying human rights abuses, like in the Syrian conflict. But really timely, we talked about human rights and how AI may exacerbate the issues. For instance, in over-predicting and over-policing in the, let me get rid of the Oakland area, Oakland, California, and other suburbs where they may be over-policing areas that are predominantly Black or a different mix. So we had the use cases, and then throughout, we always shared responsible AI themes. We really want our students to be, and anyone listening in, to be critical thinkers about these topics that are really sometimes unintended consequences of AI. For instance, around fairness, we introduced to students, there are 21 mathematical definitions of fairness. Often it's not hard to optimize, it is difficult actually to optimize across all of those. And so you have to make trade-offs there. We talked about trade-offs in other places as well. Like sometimes, even though you might want transparency, you might have to trade off transparency with, say, privacy or other things that you're trying to optimize. And this picture is actually the analogy that we use with students. It's like hurtling in a car down 120 miles an hour down a highway. There may be potholes, there may be roadblocks and other things coming up. And you have to think about how you're predicting what's coming next. One key takeaway from this class was really that a multidisciplinary approach in AI and data science is critical. And we are trying to instill in everything we do thoughtful consideration in design thinking. When you're designing a solution, thinking about these key questions about who are the constituents and really gaining their feedback. That's really important to establish trust as well. How do you measure success? What are the measurements and the trade-offs? And also an important area of cost of failure for some groups, for instance, versus other. So I think you'll hear us talk more about this in upcoming seminars that we'll be sharing with all of around ethics and responsible AI. Those are important curriculum areas that will continue to have more and more content around in the future. Now, there's lots going on at Stanford Beyond ICME, so I'll just touch on a few areas and you can check those out later. One is our new center, HI, stands for Human-Centered AI. And there are regular seminars going on, as well as, I think, conferences twice a year there. In the middle, that Women Lift Health. I just attended an online webinar there about COVID-19, gender and power, and the importance of diversity in really addressing these global health crises. They're doing some fascinating work. I definitely recommend you check them out. In one corner is the Q Farm. If you're interested in quantum computing, there's a lot going on there. We have our E Corner that's all about entrepreneurship. And actually, we've had a lot of great speakers from Cisco in the past, and they're still, their videos are online. I think Padmasree Warrior has been on there, Amy Chang, and others who have been at Cisco in the past. And then finally, if you want to go beyond our one-day summer workshops and really take more detailed courses at Stanford in areas like AI, EE, data science, CS, SCPD is our Center for Professional Development. And there are hundreds of courses and activities there. So I'd like to stop at that point. Reach out to Carla in the research area at Cisco. I know if you want to join their mailing list, she's sending out regular updates about what's happening at ICME there as well.
All right, Karen, I have a couple questions from the survey that people are interested. One of them was
Sure.
Which area in human lives will technology make the biggest changes to over the next 20, 30 years?
Great, okay. That is a fantastic question, and I wish I had a crystal ball to answer it. A few areas where I do think it will have a big impact, or maybe I'm just hoping it will have a huge impact. Certainly, we've seen a lot of changes, the beginning of changes in transportation areas with autonomous vehicles. And I think that may really take off, not initially, because I think there's a lot of hurdles still to be worked out, a lot of thoughtful work that's going on. But really, when I see a longer time horizon, I think that the modes of transportation, how we get around, will be completely different 20 or 30 years from now. I think that when we're seniors, I think that will be awesome, because then we won't have to worry about driving ourselves around, for instance, which will be fantastic. So I think that's one area. And then another area is in healthcare and in medicine. I think that we'll see a lot of different ways to access healthcare. I think we're seeing already things opening up during this COVID-19 period with beginnings of more telemedicine options. But I really think we're in such early stages, but I can imagine that the office visit of the future is going to be radically different, with much more happening from your home location, much cheaper healthcare costs, hopefully also some major breakthroughs in healthcare addressing some of the biggest issues and diseases we're facing today. It's interesting when you think about areas like education. You know, I was at Apple in earlier days when we were all thinking that computers would revolutionize education. I think honestly in education, there's been a lot of disappointment in using technology and computers. We have seen, and I will give a shout out to all the awesome teachers out there. That's a really hard job. And I think the power of real people and that real interaction with students is just always going to be incredibly valuable. So I think even though we'll see different options and more remote learning, I think it will still be, you know, that one-on-one or one-to-many in person will still be really important in education. So I'm not sure we're going to see as big a revolution there as in other areas.
Quick question, do you see much in the alternative energy space?
Oh, I certainly hope so. And actually, that's a great point. I should have mentioned it before. It will have a tremendous impact there. We're in early stages. So for instance, we have not had a lot of data, unfortunately, to model some of these important alternative energy sources. I think now as we're beginning to collect more data, like from satellites, with collecting that data from satellites, like planet satellites and other different new data sources, and also more powerful computing, I think we're going to have, I think we're going to have such rich information that we'll be able to model things much better and do a much better job applying these in an effective and efficient way, cost-effective way, alternative energy. And it's interesting because in our AI for Good seminar series, we did have some excellent talks, one by a professor at Stanford doing some great work in this computational sustainable area, sustainability, and also one from Microsoft about it. And again, they would say we're in early stages, but it definitely holds a lot of promise there.
All right, looks like we have one question from our QA room. Again, everyone let me know if you need to stop us again. Jane Booth, if you want to unmute yourself and turn your video on, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Karen. So first, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your talk today. I love data.
Thank you.
Everything about it. But, from your perspective, which technologies and data do you think are critical as we think about the future of work?
Great question. So many different data streams I think here are really important to capture. There's a lot of work going on at Stanford looking at both remote work opportunities, but also work environments, data collected on how we work in physical buildings more effectively, and also how AI can assist in many ways in the work we do. I think that there's a great promise in areas of AI-assisted decision-making. I think that's one where we're going to see huge changes in many areas. So it's not going to, I don't think, necessarily replace the people who are doing the work, but it's going to add so much to the thoughtful decision-making that goes on in everything from creative areas, you know, AI recommending for fashion designers, recommending different things they might want to consider. So everything from, you know, those areas might not think of as technical, but will be infused with it, to more areas like in healthcare, decision-making for doctors and for business people. I just think it's going to be pervasive, that AI decision-making assistance that we're going to see. In the building area, we're seeing a lot of work going on about how we can have more effective workspaces, healthier workspaces. And I think I'm hoping that with technologies there, we're going to have a lot of breakthroughs. Sorry, my phone, my earbud is wigging out on me. Oh, and that's weird. So let me just escape for a second and get out of that. And hopefully you can hear me now better. Sorry, it just glitched out on me.
No, we can hear you well.
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can queue up the next question. There's another question on our QA channel from Joanne
Yeah.
Lee.
My AirPods are just not working perfectly today. So hopefully we will work on that for our future of work as well.
You know whom to complain. There was a guy next to you.
Hi, so Karen, thanks for your time and for introducing this. And I'm really excited to listening to your opinions. And I'm really curious. So about the ongoing COVID-19, I'm sure there is a tons of discussion going on in Stanford. So do you see like any insights to share with us into the into our society, the economy, and also education, every aspect in the long run? People have been talking about the new normal and things about there must be something wrong that we are currently in this situation, right? I'm sure Stanford has many smart people that they try to do something about it. So I'm eager to learn from you.
It's a great question, and COVID-19 work is going on really throughout the entire university, not just in, definitely there's incredible amount of work in the School of Medicine, many different projects in many different areas, both in new vaccines, in drug discovery, in understanding genetics behind our reactions, in understanding the virus itself. There's just so much work going on, but beyond that, there's a lot of research going on in other places in having more efficient use of resources, so optimization problems, which ICME works with. A lot of research now is going into optimizing resources, economic resources when we are dealing with a pandemic, whether it's hospital resources or any other economic resources. There's other groups looking at modeling financial impact. And then I think some new work that I believe has just started, so I don't have much to share, but on remote learning. We're all doing remote learning and trying to gather data to see what are the best practices there. At our WIDS conference last year, we actually heard a little bit about that from Emily Glassberg-Sands at Coursera. And so we're talking to Coursera as, for instance, one partner on that. So there's all this research going on. I can tell you that there are some things on the Stanford website and ICME website, as well as School of Medicine, where you can check out some of the early wins, I would say, but it's still early days. And we'll have a lot more, I'm sure, later this year on that front. We're actually even working with students now in a new project-based learning class where we'll have faculty mentors, industry mentors, and cross multidisciplinary student project teams working on COVID-19 related projects. So that's going to be really fun. And by December, when we're finished with the first quarter of that class, I'd be happy to share more with you because it's an open class and they'll be able to share their research with everyone.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. Thank you so much. I'm really excited at hearing that cross-industry research are going on. And I have another question. Because I used to work in healthcare industry, and I'm also curious in AI in healthcare. So I was wondering, so there would be some like regulation and or legal related issue going on in AI in healthcare space. So for example, even if that the machine learning can recognize the disease correctly, even at 99%, 99.9%, but there's still 0.1% error rate or chance of error, right? So, and if it's machine instead of human to, let's say sign off this report, right? Then if that, if some accident happens, who will be in charge of this? Who will be responsible for this? Is that the machine, the algorithm, or the human beings who sign the name?
Sure. Great questions. We did address that in our AI for Good seminar series, that whole responsible AI in healthcare. I think that that's why AI assisted decision making will be the mode and not AI alone decision making, because I think exactly to the point you brought up regarding responsibility. I think at the end of the day, that will be an issue, just like with airplanes on autopilot. We haven't lost the pilots in our airplanes, and there's a real good reason for that, or maybe a lot of reasons. We also discussed topics of what you mentioned on accuracy, really in ethical issues. What if a solution is 70% accurate overall, but it's 90% accurate, say, for one group of the population, and only 50% accurate for another big group of the population? Is it still acceptable to use that solution? And how do you communicate that? So there's no black and white answers here, but it's, there's some really important ethical questions that we're dealing with in AI, especially in healthcare.
Thanks so much for those questions, Juan. I want to make sure we move on, but before we do, I've asked Carla to say hi to everyone, turn on her video, because if there are questions, you can easily, reach out to Carla. She's been coordinating wonderful events with ICME. Carla, say hi.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you. We're so happy to have Karen with us today. So feel free to reach out to me. I think Serpil put my email in the chat, or you can also reach me through research@cisco.com if you want to find out more ways that we connect with ICME or how you can get involved. There's so many events that happen, whether it's recruiting or research or connecting with students or professors, or the Women in Data Science conference that happens every year as well. So I work very closely with Karen and happy to provide more details or get you involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Appreciate it. Okay, Karen, we can, I think, move on to the next part of your presentation.
Okay, great. Well, that was wonderful. I really appreciated hearing all your questions and love to discuss more at a later time. One thing that we're really focused on in Stanford ICME is diversity and inclusion for our own students and faculty, but also for the Stanford University as a whole, and for the larger world around us where all our students are going after graduation. So we have been tracking a lot of data around women in STEM fields. Of course, we're data scientists, we love the data. And so we have, over the last few years, identified a number of challenges. And I'd love to share with you some of those challenges and what we're trying to do to address those. The first challenge that we're seeing is in education, and maybe you've seen these slides before. I'll go through them fairly quickly. Since the 1970s, we've seen great strides with women in fields like medicine and law and the sciences. This is US-based data, and we're seeing that in many cases it's 50-50 now, men and women in those fields. However, a very different picture when it comes to computer science, which is so disappointing. It used to be over 30% women, and now it's around 20%. And this is even more along the lines of the education challenge. This is data from the National Student Clearinghouse, which handles about 98% of all US students graduating. It gathers that data from colleges and universities. And we see it being fairly stagnant, where the yellow is 2006 and the brownish bars are 2016. It really has stayed about the same. In fact, in engineering, if you take out bioengineering, it actually went down in that period. And in mathematics, it went down, and that includes statistics in that area. Why I think this is particularly important is that we've seen, at least among our small team, that really for women to feel comfortable in a group, in an organization, has to be at least 30% participation by women. Of course, we'd love it to be 50%, but at least 30% to really have women feel like they belong and they're not outsiders. So we have a long way to go here. So in addition, there's the retention challenge in engineering, where this is showing over a period that women in general leave engineering at much higher rates than their male counterparts. So I'm definitely a data point on this chart. And what's really disappointing is that these senior levels, we're losing a lot of women who could be awesome role models for younger women in the field. And then finally, there's a hiring and promotion challenge. This data is from the latest McKinsey report. It's called Women in the Workplace. It's online if you want to check it out. And what it's showing is basically men in blue, women in yellow, that at entry level across, this is over 300 big companies and, I think over 1 million employees, start out about equal male, female at entry level. But what happens at the very first promotion is really significant. And that's where we think, that the good old boys network kicks in, that it's less quantitative on how you get that first promotion. And there's a huge drop in percentage of women overall, which continues throughout the pipeline. It's really even exacerbated if you're a woman of color. And those bubbles are like 18% of the total male, female. It starts out at 18%, but as you see, by the time it gets to C-suite, it's dropped so much. It's only 4% of all of those in the C-suite. So when we were looking at these different challenges 5 years ago, we were brainstorming in ICME, our partners, Walmart at the time, about how we could have an impact and make a change for the better here. And we decided one way that we could play a role was really in highlighting excellent technical women in the field. Women who were already, really rock stars in what they were doing, who often just didn't get their fair of, share of voice. They weren't being represented at conferences. So probably many of you have had this experience that I've had, where you go to these big conferences, events, at least in the past, and it would be 100% men. No one would blink an eye about it. And even a few years ago at Stanford, I went to a few events, data science, big events, 100% men. So we would ask the organizers, who were very well-meaning, and say, gee, did you consider having a woman on that panel or as a keynote? And often the response was really, well, we invited so-and-so, one person, one female, and they just couldn't make it. And that was it. That was all they had done, but they felt like they had tried and they just couldn't do it. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to do a conference with a twist, a technical conference with 100% women speakers that were technical, that really had the technical background. And that would be, a big pop for other women to really inspire everyone. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have events like this happening any further. And this is one of my favorite posters. This is for real. I did not make this up. But, we wanted to collect binders of women who were great technical role models so that anyone who wanted to know about good speakers could come to us and get some recommendations. So we started WIDS 3 years ago with these goals to inspire, to educate, and really educate everyone, male and female, who come to our events, and then support women at every stage of their careers and their studies in the field. We started with WIDS 2015. I remember we put it together last minute. We were surprised because registration sold out really quickly. We had a packed room, which Serpil probably remembers. We definitely had standing room only. And then what we discovered is that we had about 6,000 people who joined almost without any advertising or communications that we did, but they found us on live stream through SiliconANGLE, our partner at the time. So that was a big aha, that there was a lot of pent-up interest in this sort of thing. And we looked at, after the conference, should we, bring thousands of people together in one place, doing something similar to Grace Hopper, which is fantastic. By the way, I love that conference. We decided, though, that maybe it would be better to package everything in a virtual conference kit our materials, our content, our videos, and also our branding, website design, any kind of templates that we had for the agenda, you name it. And then we'd give it to people around the world who could host their own events. So that's really the model that we've used in the last 5 years. And flash forward to today. This year, even with COVID-19, which caused some hiccup in a lot of events, we still managed to have over 150 events around the world, over 50 countries, and 100,000 plus participants, probably many more this time on remote, but still we had a number of in-person events earlier in the year, and then we've had some hybrid events. So that's been exciting that the interest is still there, and we continue to grow our WIDS community worldwide. So the way we do this, and we are really grateful to this enormous program worldwide, is through this WIDS Ambassador Network. These are women as well as men throughout the world who in their organizations have stepped up to lead events. And the events can be private events for the company, for instance, or they can be big public events involving students and companies and other groups. They can be very narrowly focused, like around healthcare only, or they can be very broad. We really leave it up to these ambassadors to design something really that's meaningful in their local community, whatever works for them. And we only say that it has to be 100% women speakers, technical, and not political in nature. So we have just a few guidelines there. And this year we have over 500 of these ambassadors and co-ambassadors worldwide. I'd like to give a shout out here to the Cisco ambassador, Manjula Shivana, and she held a private event for Cisco, a live streaming event on March 2nd. Hopefully some of you attended then, which I'm delighted that you all were able to hold that event. And we'd love to hear your thoughts about events that you might want to hold going forward. So along with these events, these conferences around the world, what we've heard from a lot of women in our network is, wouldn't it be great if we had year-round programming? It's really wonderful to gather one time, but we'd really like to gather many more times throughout the year. So that's what we've been undertaking over the last few years, different initiatives that can connect people on an ongoing basis. First, we have our WIDS podcast series, and the podcast now is actually in its 3rd season. You can check us out on any of the main podcast platforms, Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We've had some fantastic speakers, and I'm really excited. We've had people tuning in from over 130 countries worldwide. We've seen a lot of downloads there. So we have our podcast series that is ongoing. Of course, we always are open to ideas you have on who we should feature. And then another big effort that we're doing is around a Datathon, which is similar to a hackathon, if you're familiar with that. It's really taking data and then making some predictions around that data set using machine learning techniques. So we think these are really important skills for women to learn and to be comfortable with. However, what we've seen is that often women don't participate in these kinds of events. I know I've done some hackathons at Stanford, and we've had a low percentage of women. Kaggle, which is part of Google, and they do their big predictive challenges, and it's less than 20% women on their platform. So we really wanted to change up the model there and do something different. So first we said that the teams have to be at least 50% women, so 1 to 4 people on a team. And then secondly, we wanted to pick themes that we thought would really resonate with our WIDS community worldwide. And we try to pick themes that have social impact or environmental impact. And then we use this platform Kaggle because it's easy for everyone worldwide to participate in. And then finally, one key element is that we have a lot of people now. I think we had over 20 workshops in different areas around the world where people could hold an event to bring women together, to train them, to form teams, to do ongoing mentorship, so that it was more of a collaborative spirit rather than a competitive spirit. And that has seemed to work really well. This year in our WIDS Datathon, we had the Datathon around critical care units. This was well before COVID was even on our radar. We happened to pick a data set around intensive care units, which seemed to work really well. We were predicting mortality rates. And then we were adding ethics and privacy training. And so I'm happy to report that we had over 3,000 registrants involved from over 85 countries worldwide. And this was 80% female. So really flipped the model from what Kaggle usually sees. And we also made it easy enough. We had 130,000 records in the file, but not too big so that anyone on a laptop could participate. You didn't have to have a supercomputer to be involved. And we'll continue. We're thinking about our topic for next year. So if you have any great ideas of data sets, let us know. We're in that process right now. And I just want to share with you quickly, we have people joining this Datathon who are everything from beginners to experts. And about 44% said they had no prior machine learning experience in these kinds of competitions. So we had a lot of newbies, and that was our goal, which was really fun. And this is one of the slides. We had some really nice feedback with our participants. I'll just point out one thing. The top item that people gained, they said, from being involved was new skills in data science, which is really what we were going for, as well as awareness and access to new tools and platforms and more domain awareness about this healthcare field. So, okay, that was the Datathon. And again, that was worldwide. What we've realized is, as well as going worldwide, that we would really love to go deeper into the pipeline and educate and inspire girls to get involved in data science, or at least think about it and be aware about it as they're considering courses, as they're considering careers, because many of them don't really even know what it means and how they could be involved in many, many different ways in different fields. So our latest initiative is going deeper into the pipeline to inspire and particularly girls, because we see in the studies that girls around the age of 15 start turning off to the STEM career fields, or STEM in general. It just becomes less of interest to them from all the studies we've seen. So I'm very excited about this. We're just about in the next few weeks to launch some new materials. And if you'd like to be involved and get those materials, you can sign up on our WIDS website. The video that we started with is a day in the life picture of some young women, data scientists, machine learning engineers, doing pretty cool things on the job. Like one is in marine biology, looking at whale populations. One is at Spotify doing music. One's at the White House. One's doing crop analysis, looking at satellite imagery. And then we have other videos and discussion guides for educators. We're really trying to learn best practices, and we'll be collecting those and sharing those with everyone. So that's our latest foray. And so what's coming next, as far as our big event, is on March 8th, 2021. And please save that date. Hopefully you can all join us in one way or another. That happens to be International Women's Day. And what we're thinking now, because we have no idea about COVID-19 and what we can or can't do in person, is that we'd love to do a 24-hour event around the world with continual programming, all about really amazing women related to data science. So we'll have more information to share soon. We're in the early stages. We welcome your thoughts about that, but it should be a lot of fun and some way to connect everyone. You know, everyone in our community will be able to be involved in one way or the other worldwide. In summary, there are many ways you all can join us, and love to have many more people from Cisco involved. You can certainly host another event all over the world. You can join us in the Datathon. You could host a workshop. We've now found a few women actually who are what they call Kaggle Grand Masters. That means they know a lot about Kaggle Datathons, and we're trying to get them involved training younger women so we could invite them to your event, as well as you can check out the WID podcast. You can work with us on educational outreach, or again, just save the date March 8th and join us. We have a army of volunteers involved as well who are helping us and beginning to start working on the March 8th big worldwide event. Oops, I lost one of my AirPods, sorry about that. So I guess I'll open it up there for more information, and definitely I'll try to design these AirPods so they work better in my small ears.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Karen. This was wonderful. Before we go on to the questions, also, I'm hoping that Women in Science and Engineering, again, will be an ambassador and hold events across different chapters. I'm really hopeful about that. But I posted Karen's email also on the chat and the Q&A room if you want to reach out to her with any questions you might have. Back to you, Dirk.
All right, looks like we have a question from Ananya Rawal. And if I've mispronounced your name, you can reintroduce yourself.
No, that's correct. Ananya is correct.
All right, yeah, you can go ahead and ask your question and turn on your video if you like.
Hi. So I want to know if in your healthcare programs, do you have like any support for mental health? Like, do you have any programs or projects related to mental health? And what could you tell a little bit more about that?
Sure, that's a really important field, and absolutely we have programs there. I don't actually have details of those programs, but I can share with you one of the roles that I played at Stanford is an advisory board member of what we call the Catalyst. And the Catalyst is sponsoring and supporting multidisciplinary work across Stanford. And mental health is a great area for that because it really involves healthcare, it involves the humanities, it involves technology, all coming together to really address these serious, important issues. One research large initiative that we supported through the Catalyst is using some actual sensors on the body to be able to measure different bioinformation and share that with the system and gather really important information, tying that in with mental health information to be able to, for any kind of group, to support the mental health situation in their network. So that's one great example of that. Another example, it's actually in the optimization area, and I think where AI can play a big role. There are a lot of now online tools where people can go on and speak with someone remotely for mental health issues around the world, right? How does that work efficiently is a question, because you may get some people who have kind of low-level issues, but some who have serious life-threatening issues that need to be addressed right away. And what I'm hearing is that these traditional models of handling those online networks is a first in, first out FIFO model. But with AI, you could do some triage, and you could actually, through the NLP solutions, natural language processing, bring the most important critical issues to the front of the queue so that then they can get attention immediately from live people on the other. And maybe you do a better job than addressing the community. Those are just two examples. There's a lot going on, and I mean, I could probably go on and find more examples for you at a later point if you're interested.
Yeah. I'll reach out to you via the email, and then maybe we can connect. Thank you so much.
All right, we have another question this time from Alice Shashkina.
Hi, Karen. So I am actually an intern here at Cisco at Carnegie Mellon University, and I actually attended one of the WIDS, or the Women in Data Science Zoom meeting conference this past March. And so I was really excited to hear about it, and I loved hearing about the work and everything that is going on. So I was wondering if there are volunteer opportunities or maybe like ambassador opportunities for college students as well, or people who are also, I don't know, looking for mentors, or just like any volunteer opportunities.
That's a great question, and I'm so glad you were involved in their event. Shout out to everyone at Carnegie Mellon who's been involved in those. There's a really excellent team. We love keeping in track with them, and actually we met up with them in person at a Grace Hopper. That was a lot of fun when you get to see everyone live. But that's a good question as far as how to be involved. WIDS ambassadors can actually be students, as well as faculty or researchers at universities, as well as anyone in industry. So we do have some undergrads who have started events or been ambassadors. That's definitely something that you may want to be involved in, or take a part of an event and own that. I think at least one or two of those workshops that I mentioned, the Datathon workshops, I think that's a great opportunity, because we love to see more students, female students on campuses, get involved with the Datathon and learn about how to do a Kaggle competition. I think it's great on a resume to show that you've done some Kaggle competitions. So there's certainly that way. And then, you know, we would love thoughts about some of our initiatives. If you want to ping me, maybe there's some other ways to involve you in some of our planning committees, or ideas on speakers. We just would welcome your thoughts. So definitely let's find a role for you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I know we have one more question, but we're out of time, and maybe Jane, you can send your question via email to Karen. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Karen, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And we're looking forward to our partnership.
Likewise, and look forward to talking with all of you more. This is just a great start, but thank you again, Serpil, for the opportunity to talk with everyone today. Okay.
Have a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.